end day one of the ETAuto Tech Summit 2022 with this fireside chat. So over the next 20 to 25 minutes, we are going to have this discussion with Mr. Manoj Kolhatkar, who wears multiple hats in the Anand Group. At the group level, he's the president and co-chief operating officer, and is also the managing director of the $1.5 billion group's flagship company, Gabriel India. And by the way, Mr. Kolhatkar, belated congratulations on Gabriel's Diamond Jubilee.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
As Gabriel India, by the way, completed 60 years of existence last year, which is also the first company of the Anand Group. So, as the theme says, smarter manufacturing for sustainability, and sustainability is a cornerstone for any responsible, forward-looking organization and individual in today's world, for various reasons. Key among them being the never before and growing environmental challenge that we are facing. So it's not restricted to any part or any geography of the world. It cuts across, unfortunately, all the entire world. So therefore, the onus is on every individual and every organization to make sustainability a key part of their operations at the individual level or be at the organization level, and therefore design the businesses accordingly. So in this session, as the theme suggests, we are going to focus on manufacturing, the role of manufacturing as a key pillar of the overall strategy to be more sustainable. So without further ado, Mr. Kolhatkar, first I would like to ask you, as among various operations of the organization, when you pick manufacturing as an operation, how are you leveraging, how are you looking at it to leverage it for not only enhancing overall efficiency, output, lower costs and things like, which is part of the normal course of action, but also now to enhance sustainability as an organization and as well as contribute towards overall the environmental sustainability?
Thank you, Sumantra, and thank you for having me on this panel, and good evening, everybody. And manufacturing, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, is finally we have to make use of resources and we have to make use of energy, to convert raw material into some finished product. So basically manufacturing does that. There's a whole lot in between. So yes, once you talk about consumption of energy and consumption of resources, it's our responsibility, like you rightly said. How do we ensure that we minimize that? How do we, ensure that we leave a much better planet for our children and grandchildren? Like the famous saying, they say, the climate and the Mother Earth, the nature is not something which we have, the predecessors have passed on to us, but it is something that we owe to our grandchildren. So that's a paradigm changing statement. So we all have to be very, aware of that. So once we talk about manufacturing, we always look at, especially in automotive manufacturing, we have a philosophy called the 4M. I mean, all those who are in automotive would be very familiar with that 4M methodology or 4M philosophy, which is man, machine, material, and method. So basically, everything in manufacturing revolves around this 4M. So at Anand Group level, what we have now done is we have now added another couple of 4s to that 4M, just to put it very simply, so that it can connect to the people. Because finally, it's people, right? At Gabriel, we have 4,000 people. At Anand Group, we have over 16,000 people. So it's the people who are going to make that change.
Absolutely.
Whatever
at the leadership level, you and the board may have devised a plan, but unless it percolates down,
absolutely, it's not good. Get
doesn't serve the
transformed.
purpose.
Right. So then, how do we connect to the people is very important in whatever we do. So from 4M, which I said is man, machine, material, and method, we have taken it to 4 Ws, which is water, waste, warming, and wattage. So let me explain what is that. Water is, of course, how do we consume less of water, because India particularly is a water stressed country. The second is the waste. How do we ensure zero waste to landfill? The third is warming, which is basically greenhouse gases. How do we ensure that we reduce the emissions in everything that we do? And the last is wattage, which is energy. How do we reduce the energy? How do we use more of renewable? So we try to focus on these four, in addition to these 4 M's that are told in manufacturing. Now, for ensuring that we deliver the maximum on these 4 W's, we use the 4R. Now, what is 4R? 4R is reduce, reuse, recover, and recycle. So you can apply this 4R to each of that W that I told to ensure that everything keeps coming down, or in fact, the best state is eliminate. So we do that as a way of life. And let me share with you, in each of our companies, we have taken very aggressive sustainable goals.
And when you say each of a company, you mean the network of 20 companies?
Yes, absolutely, 20
and
companies.
And that would translate to how many plants, just to
that's,
get it with the perspective?
That's about 60 plants that we have across India. So that's why it has to reach, that's why I say it's important to reach to the lowest, not the lowest level, but to the working level of the people.
So either ways, because of the scale of the manufacturing scale of a group of Anand's size,
right?
If it's well designed, you can make a major positive impact. If it is not so well designed, the negative impact will be as significant.
Absolutely, because we have seen, again, there are a whole host of initiatives, like, they are the flavor of the season, as they say. Many do not sustain. They start off at the leadership level, they go down, percolate, and by the time they go down, they sustain for a month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year,
and then
it's back to square one. Now, in sustainability, we definitely don't want that to happen. So, sustainability for us, for Anand Group particularly, it means, it holds a wholly different meaning. It's our ethos. It's the way we live. If you go to any of our Anand plants, we have a trademark impression of the plant. Any plant you go, I can bet you, is green. When you see the plant optically itself, it's absolutely green, lush green, front yards, very well manicured lawns. So the idea of the founder chairman was also to instill this sensitivity about environment right from the start. Now I'm talking of 60 years back. This is not today. Today everybody is speaking of sustainable goals, of green, of climate change, of warming. But this was sowed in the group by the founder chairman 60 years back. And now that is being carried by the current chairperson also, where she has ensured through all our boards and through all our management teams, sustainability is no longer just a wish, it is part of our KRAs. Shankar was there before me, he is also part of our group. So it forms an essential part of my KRA. So I have to deliver on sustainability.
So they are quantifiable targets.
Absolutely.
So, and now almost every responsible organization with good corporate governance have also kind of set a target date.
Yeah.
To not only reduce carbon footprint significantly, but also to be net zero.
Yes.
India, as a country, has set a target of 2070. Has Anand
Yes,
Group also set?
Absolutely. So on all these 4 parameters that I told you, waste, water, energy, and greenhouse gases, we all have a well-defined roadmap with clear targets of becoming net zero by 2025. So we have taken really aggressive targets. Okay. Of course, yes, out of that energy, we are going to hit 50% renewable energy by 2025. But the others, waste to landfill, water neutrality, and emissions, we have taken a net zero target of 2025.
Okay, these are the end goals.
Yes.
What are the key levers that you have identified, you are pulling as the means to achieve those goals? Yeah.
So, let me take some examples, and that will probably help us, unravel the whole thing. In manufacturing, let's say, for Gabriel, where we make shock absorbers for the entire, two-wheeler two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, commercial vehicles, railways, the whole spectrum of Indian automotive. So we do a lot of, we do castings, we do machining, we do painting, we do a lot of assembly operations. So what we have done in each of the area, let's say painting. Now painting is one of the most polluting so-called process in the whole automotive, right? Exactly. So if you look at painting, what we have done is, can we use technology to ensure that we use less of energy, because it's a very high energy guzzling process. So we've ensured VFD drives, whereby our power consumption has come down as low as 45 to 50%. The second thing that we have done for pre-treatment chemicals, in paint shop, we need to heat the chemicals to a temperature of 50, 55. We have ensured by, again, intervention of technology, we can do it at room temperature. So I don't need any heating.
Okay.
Right? So there are a lot of interventions that we do in each and every process. In the casting area, we had taken innovation exercise with the entire casting team, whereby I remember we had set a target of 50% reduction in power. And it was audacious. 50% reduction is, maybe people thought we were kind of crazy. But let me tell you that the team worked on those innovation projects. And at the end of it, we delivered over 40% reduction in energy savings.
Okay.
So
this over a period of?
Over a period of 1 year.
Okay.
Just 1 year. Similarly, in machining or in welding. Now, welding is another energy guzzler. We have shifted to laser welding. So normal welding process would need 25 kilowatts. Laser needs only 2 kilowatts. It doesn't need an intermediate material to be filled. No flux is needed. There's no emissions, lesser emissions.
But technology comes at a cost. So how does it
does
compare?
That's a very good point.
And how do you balance it off with your
That's
overall?
A very good point you brought, Sumantra. So it does come at a cost. But then I think it's time that we don't look at cost in everything that we do. I think we have to take a longer term perspective in cases where it's related to environment, to safety, and also to quality. In fact, we may work on a payback of 5 years, 7 years, or that kind. Otherwise, we would want a project to pay back in 4 years.
So you're saying, as an industry, it's time to kind of look at cost, but under a different perspective and under a different lens, and weave it, and tailor make the entire overall business proposition.
Yes.
To make it viable, right?
Absolutely. I think it's time everybody looks at it at a. Very shortly, I'm sure the way India has also announced in the COP26 in Glasgow that we are going to be positive or neutral by 2070. We have got some ambitious plans on renewable energy as well. When the target is, I think, 220 gigawatts in next year. You will see more and more regulations coming in where it won't be left to choice. It won't be left to choice any longer. You will have to do it. You will have to be sustainable in everything that you do. And that's a good way forward. That's the only way forward.
Perhaps more so in a country like India, perhaps where regulations, it's very less is done voluntarily, and regulations has to take kick in.
Yeah, you have to. It needs a mix of both.
Yes. So, but in terms of on the manufacturer level, I mean, Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing is become a buzzword. It's been there for the last couple of years or so. But tell me, the pandemic, and now we are out of it. Shouldn't speak too soon. Maybe we are at the fag end of it, and hopefully there are no more unpleasant surprises. What are the kind of pandemic-led processes or approaches that took birth across the group, and how much of it have also come as a new set of best practices which will remain forever, maybe?
Yeah, a very relevant question. Everybody would, of course, know that pandemic has brought about a huge change in mindset with regard to digitalization. I think that's a no-brainer. Like, we are using more of Teams, WebEx, and Zoom calls and whatnot. We have gone to a hybrid model that has been enabled by basically, kind of forced us into that mode of thinking by COVID. But there's another important thing that has happened after COVID, in my view. That is the sensitivity towards environment in a common man has definitely gone up. A common man sees that there is something, we have disturbed the balance of nature, which is kind of hit back to us through COVID. So it's again a great time for us, a great space for us to be in, where we can push this agenda of environment and sustainable technologies. So that's, I think, that's one hidden point that we missed during this COVID period. Now, having said that, your question about how are we using this, technologies? We definitely are employing IoT, but to be honest, we are still struggling with getting returns or payback in what was kind of promised to us. But nevertheless, we see the larger picture here. There are benefits which will come, and we are definitely going ahead on that path very aggressively in terms of IoT. In terms of energy management or water management, which I just mentioned, there IoT is really playing a very, very good, very great role. And what is visible gets measured. What gets measured gets done. So it's very simple. So IoT and Industry 4.0 is bringing that visibility to the fore. And one more thing, that it's no longer left with only some people, some select people to know that data. It's suddenly available to all. So that's another very important concept in this, in again this drive towards environment or drive towards sustainability. Is at the group level, we are seeing how can we democratize this particular aspect of environment. It's not only, as we mentioned earlier, not only at leadership level. How can every person in the company be a part, be proud that I have played a role in this movement? The moment you do that, I think you're a transformed
building
company.
that culture will ensure the sustainability of within that approach, because people may come and go.
Absolutely.
So how are you working towards building that culture in the organization, which is conducive, or which may, in some cases, depending on various people, will force one to think sustainability?
Let's say about sustainability, we are also actually doing a formal intervention by having a dedicated course, a formal educational course for some of our staff to get educated on the aspects of sustainability, so that they become more aware. That is at the staff level. But at the employees level, we have a whole lot of Kaizen movement. We have specific theme-based Kaizens where we talk about, sustainability, or they may not understand sustainability, but what they understand is reduction of consumption, reduction of energy, simple things like, switching over to LED lights. It gives huge savings. It's very simple. It's a no-brainer. But then they connect with that very easily, and they see this change happening, and that enables them to also get aware, more knowledgeable about this movement. Then selling the larger part of the agenda about environmental or sustainable goals becomes easier. Yeah.
And it's easier for them also to understand.
Absolutely.
And automation. Automation has been adopted in the industry for various reasons, even much before COVID. And what is also happening now is the next level of automation, maybe even automated AGVs, being used in the manufacturing to ferry components and things like that, enhancing efficiency. How much of an efficiency enhancement do these interventions bring?
Well, AGVs is a concept which is still not very used in India. See, because again, in India, the labor costs are all said and done. We know it's a fraction. Let's say in Europe, a typical labor cost would be anything excess of 55,000 euro. For that matter, in US, or for that matter in Japan, Korea, it's around the same levels, 50 to 60,000 euro. Whereas in India, it's hardly 20,000 rupees. So there's no comparison. So the payback of these automations is going to be always very difficult. So AGVs are still used in a very minimal way. But again, robotics is something that is seeing more and more usage.
Adoption.
Now we have at least 5 completely robotic lines. Where we have, the entire line where used to be a sea of people, now it's only robots working on the line. So there again, the good part is it may not be entirely payback, because a robot doesn't have, like they say, a robot doesn't need a toilet break or a tea break, or a robot doesn't form a union. So of course there are benefits around that, but the important part is there is a huge improvement in quality and reliability of the process. Okay. So that's the hidden benefit of a robot, which we don't factor in our payback cases. Mm-hmm. So automation, to the extent of robotization or low-cost automation in India, is definitely very, very relevant. And I can say it's happening significantly. To help that, fortunately, the cost of the robots are also coming down.
Right.
Now, what used to cost 20 lakh a robo, now you get a robo of I wouldn't name the maker, but you can get it as low as 6 lakh.
Right.
So it makes the whole equation completely different.
Yes, yes. I think there's a particular term also, no, for those kind of robots, different, which is not really full-fledged robots, but no, kind of partly robotic operations.
No, unless you're talking about cobots. No.
Cobots also.
No,
yes.
cobots is different. Cobots is a little different. I don't know the other one which you're talking about, but cobots is different where it can run like me and you are part of a
Yeah.
process.
Right.
I can continue and you can be a robot which
and
can
take over.
run along with the human being
Yes.
without interference.
So do you see the cobots also as
again, it's a cost of the people. So
okay.
that equation will take a
Yes.
long time for us to
And
justify.
that's why I think, in India, not everything can be a plug and play approach.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah.
Indeed.
So that's smart intervention.
That's smart intervention, yes. And also in terms of additive manufacturing, and that's been there for as a concept for quite some time. But do you see additive manufacturing also becoming relevant in some cases at least, or viable?
We never thought, but we are using additive manufacturing in developing prototypes for sure. I mean, 3D printing. If you're talking about that, we are definitely employing that. But when it comes to functional capabilities of a 3D part, it still is yet to be proven. You can't have an automotive part which will have the performance in the field that can replicate, let's say, a metal part. I mean,
haven't you tested, validated it just to check if it is possible?
Of course, yes. No, it's not possible. As of now, they still do not have the strength that that, let's say, a normal forging or a casting or a machine part will have. So it's still a long way away, but for sure, it shortens the lead time because you have a prototype part very quickly.
Yes.
Literally in a matter of few hours, you can actually fit and look at your design and do the tweaks and changes. So to that extent, it's definitely useful, yeah.
And thereby also perhaps has an indirect contribution towards sustainability, right?
Yes, yeah.
So yes, and of course, with you on the stage, I cannot leave the opportunity to talk about technology. And Gabriel has been kind of known name in the industry and in the space of ride control products, in other words, suspension systems. What are the new crop of technologies that you see coming in that segment in India?
Yeah, so fortunately for us, one thing is, we are kind of protected. Whether it's an IC engine or electric vehicle, they will need a suspension.
You are powertrain.
So we are in business. Yeah, we are power agnostic, like brakes, like tires, like glass, like seats. We are agnostic to that extent. But having said that, yes, there are changes because first and foremost, EV reduces the in-cab noise of the cars. And in fact, even the scooters, we have developed, we have a big market share in electric two-wheelers, fortunately. I mean, we are lucky to have been supplying to Okinawa. Mr. Sharma was just here. We never thought that a scooter guy will come to us ki, yaar, awaaz aa raha hai aapke suspension se. But we are seeing even that because in scooter, you're hearing so many other noises, right?
Yes,
so we wouldn't think.
Exposed to the environment.
But we are being forced to develop and improve on the noise levels of our suspension, even in a scooter. In car, of course, it is very, very valid. So we have to work on technologies which are lighter, quieter, and with EVs, the OEMs are looking at this as an opportunity to bring new or unique features to their cars. So while we have the electronic suspension or what we call the active or semi-active suspension, it's right now offered only on very high-end cars. In India, it's let's say the Mercedes S-Class has a fully active suspension. BMW 7 Series or Range Rovers, they have this active suspension. Even E-Class and 5 Series, even those vehicles, or the 3 Series or the C-Class vehicles, even those don't have active suspensions or semi-active for that matter. So it's a long way for them to make it to, let's say, the A segment, B segment, C segment cars. It's a long way. In Europe, there is now a movement happening where, let's say the Volkswagen ID3, that is coming up with one variant of electronic suspension. So the movement is happening like it has happened always. You have now Bose
Trickle down.
speakers in
Yeah.
Kia Sonet,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Otherwise, they were offered only in premium cars. So you see higher and higher levels of technologies going down, being offered in basic cars. We are seeing that happen in Europe. In India, it will still take time. But with EV, the Indian OEMs are also looking at this as an opportunity to introduce active or semi-active suspension. So we are looking at, very actively exploring developing that. We have actually, we had our first proto ready last month. In two-wheeler side, while active suspension is still not the vogue, but we are seeing a lot of upside-down technology, upside-down forks as they call, or the inverted front fork technology, which we are giving to Ola. Incidentally, Ola is an upside-down fork, and we are also giving to some other EV makers, and working with another OEM for the upside-down technology as well. So the third aspect about in terms of product technology is lightweighting. Now, lightweighting is extremely important. It's simple. The biggest issue bothering every EV maker or EV customer is the range. That's the at the top of his mind. You reduce weight, the range increases, right?
Yes.
Even in IC engine fuel, the thumb rule is you reduce 10% of weight, 6 to 8% of
Fuel
mileage
efficiency
improves.
enhancement,
So that's
yes.
the thumb rule. In EV, I don't know what would be that in terms of kilometer range, but it would be pretty much the same. So the more and more weight you reduce is going to help, the automotive being offered. So we had got the Eco Innovation Award some years back for having developed the hollow piston rod for Volkswagen Polo. We are single source for Volkswagen Polo, Vento, Skoda Rapid, Skoda Fabia, where we, instead of a solid piston rod,
Right.
we switched to a hollow piston rod, which is more safer and
well as
lighter by 40%.
Okay.
So 40% per rod, we were able to reduce the weight.
And you could, therefore, I would assume reduce the cost also.
No, unfortunately, this technology did come at some cost.
Okay.
But nevertheless, again, environmentally very sustainable.
Right.
So we are looking at that. That has encouraged us to look at more and more opportunities in lightweighting. So we are looking at converting sheet metal into steel brackets. We are looking at eliminating 2 brackets into 1 bracket, which reduces weight, eliminates one part altogether. So lightweighting clearly is another very, very important area for all of us to focus. And lightweighting not only helps the automotive, it generally the lesser material you use is good for the planet, right?
Right. And lightweighting, has been an evergreen topic
yes.
of interest for the automotive industry.
And
but
never ending.
Never ending. And now it's even more sensitive topic as well. Both from the ICE engine side, as emission regulation become increasingly stringent, in some cases dramatically stringent.
Absolutely.
And of course, on the electrification side, the range anxiety is a big issue. So, ladies and gentlemen, an interesting conversation. This is around manufacturing and technology and sustainability. But of course, we would love to have your participation in it as well. So, in case you have any queries, please raise your hand, and we'll ensure that a microphone reaches you. And please take this opportunity to ask your query to our industry veteran here, Mr. Kolhatkar. There, I can see a hand raised there.
Hi, Mr. Kolhatkar, right at the back, Sumantra here from ETAuto.
Okay.
Hi, Suma. So, Mr. Kolhatkar, you mentioned that robots will probably bring in more efficiency, and they don't need refreshment breaks, they don't gossip, they don't need, they can't unionize. So obviously it's much better to have robots on the workplace. But does that mean that the workforce for the automotive industry at large would shrink, which is important because it is one of the largest employment generators for India and also other parts of the world. But it is a very political hot potato because we are facing unemployment and the government will not like that at the altar of higher efficiency, you reduce workforce. How do you see this going forward? And could that potentially stall robotization in the industry at large?
Suman, that's a politically difficult question for me to answer. But anyway, I'll attempt to answer. See, while robotics will improve the productivity. I don't think it will get to a stage anywhere where it's going to impact the kind of employment generation that the auto industry does. And robots still, for that matter, can, the affordability is only with tier ones or, OEM level. So it is still a long way off where we can see a complete shift from, people to robots. And second, the market itself is increasing. We are just a 4 million car market, right? So I mean, there's a huge upside possible for this. That it's only 24 cars per thousand. So we can, I mean, you look at any other country, it's even a comparable country would have 100 cars per thousand. So the whole market is going to increase. So the employment perspective, I don't think is going to be a big issue. And yes, you need people to manufacture robots also. So probably the employment will shift somewhere else. To that extent, I mean, yes, there will be some impact, but not a big impact.
Hello, sir. Mehul here. Mehul here.
Yeah, Mehul.
Just you talked about range anxiety. Like a lot of OEMs have, almost every OEM has the range anxiety. They wanted to increase the range. So probably one of the questions that I have, we see in the past few days, a lot of EV two-wheelers being burning. I would not name the company, but we know it well. So the point is, what exactly the OEMs are doing as a part key, these EVs, when they are being tested rigorously or they are not being they are these technologies buy from sometimes from other countries and they do not fulfill the requirements of India. What exactly you as an OEM partner or an OEM of two-wheeler are doing so that the EVs do not burn actually? We do not catch fire, especially batteries.
Mehul, again, sorry, but I'm not in the space of batteries or chargers as of now. So fortunately, the suspension is not catching fire. So
Anand Group is making some that step, but very initial
yeah, but
stage
yes,
in this
these
EV journey,
again.
I
Let
guess.
me tell you, these things are. It's a revolution that has just started, right? So you are going to face challenges along the way. So I'm sure OEMs will get over it. Government will intervene. There'll be improvement in quality standards of the parts, of policies, and as a whole outcome, the whole industry is going to improve for sure. But I don't think there's any shortcut. There are bound to be a few challenges.
Hello, sir. I represent Lubrizol. This question around the topic, which is manufacturing for sustainability. So, how, as a corporate, are you ensuring that your suppliers are all, or any practices you are putting into place, so that your suppliers are also contributing towards your sustainability goals?
A very good
Yeah,
question.
I'll just add to that. Have you because to be a truly carbon net zero, it cannot be only at the organization level, across its operations also. It has to be throughout the chain. So, like many OEMs have set a clause for that if you want to be a supplier in part of our supply network, you have to adhere to these. Likewise, have you also taken any steps?
Absolutely. So unless suppliers are key partners in our whole business, I mean, finally, it's 75% that we buy from them. So unless we take the supplier partners along with us in our movement of sustainability, this won't happen. So let me tell you what we have done at Gabriel and Anand Group is we are monitoring the what we call the EHS compliance, environment, health and safety. So all these three aspects, we have a regular review with suppliers whereby we ensure and we give some additional points in the supplier rating system where they adhere to this so that they stand to get more business. Second, in every vendor meet that we have for the past, I would say at least 4 years, you add COVID, so maybe 5 years, we have started instituting awards at our supplier meets for environment, for health and safety practices, where it clearly sends a message that it encourages the suppliers to actually do more and more of these practices. Because it's a challenge. I mean, let's admit the tier 2 and tier 3 industry is not as mature, as developed as let's say the tier 1 or OEMs are, and we have to hold their hands, no question about it, and we are committed to it.
Good evening. My name is Pradeep Kauda from Bergen Systems Private Limited. Sir, you mentioned about the smart shockers. Would you like to share a little bit about your plans or how soon these will be part of your production plans? Thank you.
The smart shockers, as I said, our first prototype for the four-wheeler is already ready. I mean, that's a proto, but we should be ready with the formal part, the semi-active suspension in a year on a production basis as well.
On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Kolhatkar.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
really
Thanks,
it was a very enriching conversation. Thank you very much.